Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 289, Introverts' Guide to Small Talk. What? I hear you cry indignantly? Now you're expecting me to make small talk? Ugh! I thought this podcast was for introverts. Don't you realise it's probably the thing I hate more than anything else? Even the thought of it is likely to drive me into my shell. It's okay. I've got you. And the strategies I'll be sharing with you are very much for introverts. So keep listening, because I can guarantee you'll be pleasantly surprised. Pinky swear. For most of us, the very idea of small talk brings memories flooding back of shallow, meaningless, awkward conversations that honestly we'd rather consign to the best not think about again box. I have quite a few things in that box. At best, we can think small talk's a waste of breath, not to mention precious energy, and at worst, it can lead us into a trap like lambs to the slaughter. I know I have felt all of those things in the past, but I knew that if I wanted people to take me seriously, which I do, and if I wanted my work to leave a positive legacy, which I also do, but most of all, if I wanted to depart this world with no regrets, which I most definitely do, I had to get over myself and see small talk for what it really is. And here is what it really is. Ready? It's the currency of connection in just about every setting you might find yourself in. Family, workplaces, social groups, even common interest groups. If we avoid it altogether, we're really not doing ourselves any favours, as it can leave us misunderstood, sidelined, or worse. And before you come back with, whoopee, sounds great to me, please think honestly about the implications. How often do we complain about being sidelined, overlooked and undervalued? How often do we complain that no one really understands us? How often do we silently fume about the inequity of this world geared up for extroverts? I've shared my perspective before on this, and it's worth sharing often. I consider the meaningful conversations I crave to be just the other side of small talk. So small talk is the gateway conversation. And the reason I'll keep sharing this perspective is that there's no mistaking that small talk is a blooming great obstacle for many of us. And I get that. So here's the good news. This particular obstacle is not an immovable object made of heavy material like lead or even osmium. That's only in our imagination. This obstacle is made of nothing more substantial than wet paper that any of us can tear apart and break free from. I mean, even on our most depleted days, if it mattered, we could fight our way out of what essentially constitutes a wet paper bag. But right there is the thing that adds impossible weight for many introverts, if it matters. So part of what I'll be doing in this episode is repeatedly shining a light on why it matters, because it really does. Part of the problem is that small talk has been over-glorified by the bias that favours the extrovert ideal, meaning that it equates chatter with charisma. But once you've torn through that soggy barrier, I promise you that what you'll find is not emptiness, but the start of something, a gateway conversation with the potential to lead to a richer outcome. We all know the myth that whoever can hold the room with light-hearted banter and daring do stories is more competent, more likeable and more valuable. What utter nonsense! It's another example of poppycock, if you ask me. This bias leaves quieter folk like you and me believing we must be lacking something vital when we prefer to avoid idle chit-chat. So, our default can become avoid, avoid, avoid. Relationship gaps open up in families, teams and networks. Misunderstandings creep in because silence is misread as arrogance, disinterest or weakness. Opportunities for trust and collaboration get missed because the golden threads of connection are absent. Left unchecked, this can mean stalled careers, social isolation, and constant exhaustion from navigating environments where connection always seems to start with meaningless chatter. For some introverts, the pressure that they feel can be so debilitating that they opt out altogether, either by walking away or staying home, even if they really wanted to participate. That's because the empty conversations that we imagine small talk to be makes it really difficult for us to stay present authentically. This is similar to the trap I referred to earlier, where our entire focus shifts to how do I escape instead of who would I like to interact with. Being caught in the trap is intimidating, draining and all-consuming, leading us to nowhere productive. The truth is, introverts can handle small talk on their own terms when we recognise it as simply that gateway conversation that leads us to deeper, more meaningful exchanges. I've talked about that before and will continue to do so until natural introverts see that it's nothing to fear. Here's the reframe that works for me. I think of small talk, that gateway conversation, as a bridge or portal rather than an inconvenient waste of time and attention. If the soggy paper bag is the obstacle, the bridge or portal is the path that appears once you break through. Both are part of the same journey. And it all starts with our mindset, as does so much of our growth and development, it seems. Picking up on my regular reminder that thoughts become things, thank you Mike Dooley, if I continue to think negatively of small talk, it will remain just that, a negative, pointless waste of time and energy. And if you need more evidence, neuroscience confirms that what we or our inner critic tell us shapes our thoughts, emotions, and even the structure of our brain, effectively poisoning the mind over time. Most problematic is the catastrophic thinking like, I hate small talk, or I'm no good at small talk. So what's the answer? Well, using empowering alternatives can, and I quote, rewire neural connections and promote mental resilience. So it has to start with understanding the value of something we've considered meaningless and then figuring out how we can make it work for us. That's when we notice that the bridge feels sturdy underfoot or the portal dials in clearly to our destination. Understanding the value is how we can perceive small talk as both a useful tool and a necessary opportunity to connect. And yes, even we introverts need real connection. So I invite you to familiarise yourself with your version of this bridge or portal that I mentioned, given your circumstances. What does it look like, feel like, sound like even? If you're imagining a bridge, I'm going to suggest you see it as a short, sturdy, safe bridge, a fast route to your desired, meaningful conversations. If it's a portal, and mine is like the one from Stargate that allows for near instantaneous travel to my desired destination, where is that? In my case, my destination is meaningful exchanges that are generative and nourishing. Here's the important bit though when it comes to portals. It works because you have to dial in your desired destination. This isn't wing and a prayer stuff. This is intentional. which means that I need to give some thought to where I want to end up. What conversations specifically do I want to explore? This is important because it informs how I engage in the initial small talk, the questions I ask, the answers I give, all of which should be leading me to that rich, affirming, generative conversation. So here are the bones of the guide that you can flesh out to suit your own needs. Number 1, ensure you are sufficiently pre-charged mentally and emotionally for your portal or bridge trip. I often find that I need to top up my batteries during the day or as I approach my portal, and in case the same is true for you, I've shared how you can access my brilliant battery booster resource in the show notes. Think of this as fueling up before your journey over the bridge or through the portal. No energy, no safe crossing. Number 2, prepare some relevant questions that will enable you to cross the bridge quickly or dial in your destination accurately to the portal. Think of them as your sat-nav, ensuring you reach your destination. These are always going to be open questions so the conversation doesn't falter at the first step. And what or tell me more questions are the gold standard, or as we often say here, the DBs. Please don't talk about the weather, that's a reminder for my UK colleagues, or ask how their journey was. Who the F cares anyway? Questions like this will not take you to your desired destination, unless of course you're a meteorologist, so they'll only compound the perceived emptiness of the exchange. Number 3, listen intently and empathically with all of your senses so you steady your footing on the bridge and can ask follow-up questions or make observations that continue your journey. This is something many introverts are good at, so you'll be in familiar territory and playing to your strengths. People are usually happy talking about themselves if it makes sense to do so, and you are the one in control of it making sense. Each attentive question or observation helps you stay on course without wobbling. Number 4, respect and honour boundaries, yours and theirs. This is easier if you're listening with your eyes as well as your ears, and that's because along with the words and intonation they are using, you'll notice shifts in their body language and subtle changes in their energy. What are your telltale signs that someone is perilously close to a boundary? And if you don't know, ask someone who knows you well. I bet they can tell you. Just as most bridges have guardrails, spotting when you or others are reaching a limit stops any of you from toppling off the side. Finally, number 5, know when it's time to close the conversation and have some ideas about how you might do that. Sometimes you'll want to close as they could be demolishing your bridge as you're trying to cross it. Sometimes your energy will start to drain and you'll need to exit for a quick top-up using one of the brilliant battery boosters. And sometimes it'll be because the conversation has provided all that you hoped. I always include a thank you in closing my conversations. Kindness costs nothing after all. Exiting a portal requires choosing the right coordinates, so end the conversation with kindness so both of you land somewhere safe. In conclusion, I encourage you to reflect on how you'll make these guidelines your own, because not only are they useful in everyday interactions, they're also crucial for networking situations. I talked about that extensively in episode 238, and I suspect I'll venture into that topic again sometime. Once you're able to see the small talk obstacle for the wet paper bag that it is, once you're clear on why it is in your best interest to master the art of small talk, and once you have your own framework refined, you'll be well on the way to stealing a march on those who get caught in a rut of mindless chatter that leads to nowhere meaningful. You see, small talk is not about becoming a chatterbox or betraying your quieter nature. It is that gateway conversation that enables you to own your presence in ways that respect both your energy and your authenticity. So please don't think that small talk is not for you. The reality is, small talk is one of the easiest ways to create trust, connection, and influence. So give it a chance, because I think you'll find that it may just be one of your secret weapons after all. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us, and leave a comment, because we know that that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.